I also have Dr. Elms, the principal of Desert Junior Senior High, and Mr. Searks, the principal of Branch Elementary. Off camera, I have Chief Thompson, superintendent of the Mission Support Group, who will be reading our questions today. And then if I need to dial a friend, I have Candace Lang, our school liaison officer, and Halita Van Hoy, our STEM coordinator as well. So if you have questions in regards to school liaison or STEM, we can reach out to them and answer those questions as well. Before I turn it over to questions, and I don't know that we have any quite yet, what I really want to get out is we've been working really hard on a survey. And the survey it's a school survey, and the intent behind the survey is to understand and highlight the trends in our efforts to improve education for our kids here at Edwards. There's a couple ways you can get to this survey. One is, right now, it should be live on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. If it's not, it will be shortly. The next way is there's a couple little business cards floating around the wing right now that has a QR code on it. You simply take your phone with the camera, scan it over the QR code, and the survey link pops up, and you can take the survey. So there's a couple ways to take it. What we'd ask is that you be very candid. This information will help us work as a team to make improvements where you see some things that are lacking. So again, it's the school survey. The link should be on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. If not, it will be there shortly. If you see any of these business cards floating around your work center, it has gone out to the spouses groups. It should be posted on numerous sites, so you should have plenty of access to this. And again, please be candid. Real quick, the number to text questions to us is posted right back here on the wall, but I'll read it to you. It's 707-412-8922. No questions yet. So I'll kick it off with the first basic question, Kevin, and I think everybody really wants to know because we see the surrounding area. Yep. A lot of schools are starting to head back in. What is our plan for the Muroc School District?
Thank you. First, I just want to take a moment to thank all of the parents and the students who take time every week. We send out a survey at the beginning of every school week. We read through the responses. We do that on the staff side, and we do it with parents and students. And the feedback that you give us helps us to understand what we can improve in and directions that we need to head. To talk about how we're going to go back, a little bit of a lengthy answer, but I want to be thorough in it the first time through especially. So if we go back in time and we go to March and we talk about how we kind of got to the place that we're at, we saw that across the state of California, within about a 10-day period, all school districts up and down the state went from 100% in-person instruction to some form of 100% at home, distance learning. The process to go back to school will not look anything like it was when we all left. So it varies in California county by county, and one thing that has happened in Kern County, our school district resides, we have many parents that live in both Los Angeles County and Kern. So if you're living in Los Angeles County, you're going to hear and see things that are different than in Kern County. But because the school district is in Kern, that's how the school district operates. A few weeks ago, we were able to, in our last board meeting, we decoupled ourselves from the county data. So up until that point, whatever the county was, whatever level the county was at as far as restricted levels, the school district had to mirror 100%. Kern County was in the most restrictive tier, it was the purple tier. Then it went into the red tier, which means the data got a little bit better for COVID-19 test data. And because of that, we had an opportunity, a small window, where we could say, we would like to break away from the county data. By law, you're able to do that. I think nearly every school district that I'm aware of in Kern County, there's over 40, I believe everyone, if not everyone, did that. We decoupled ourselves from the county data. And so now school districts, at least in Kern County, are able to start working on coming back to school using their own the data and the metrics that belong to them exclusively. So we're not married to whatever the county data is. So I come back to Los Angeles County again, very important, because if you live in LA County, they're still in the most restrictive band. So if you want to go right now and eat inside a restaurant in LA County, you can't do that. If you're in Kern County, as of right now, you still can in a limited capacity. So if you live in Los Angeles County, you may see conditions that are different, is why I bring that up. But you will start to see, and you will not see schools that are in Los Angeles County start to come back. So Lancaster, Palmdale, Quartz Hill, you're not going to see those schools or those districts start to come back in the same capacity that you would Rosamond and North. That's Kern County. So take that into consideration. But as far as the neighboring school districts, what we are going to see is, although we all left within a 10-day period of one another, we will all come back depending on our own data. So every school district is running surveys with their parents and with their teaching staff and with their support staff, trying to find out what does everyone want to do. They also have to look at what are the local metrics of the area, and then they start to build a plan to come back. That's kind of the background. Now, what are we going to do? Coming back to school is a change in working conditions for employees, first of all. So it is 100% negotiable. We are negotiating that right now. We have meetings set up for next week. We've been working on this since the summertime. I know last time we were here, we talked about, we ran a dozen different task forces starting in the spring, and we ran those with teachers and support staff and administrators, and we covered every topic from how are we going to park cars and get kids out of vehicles and into the classroom, to how do we provide lunch to kids safely, temperature checks, following all the guidelines, how do we educate them, what do the groups look like, at what point do we come back. And we did that based on the information we had at the time. So a lot has changed since those task forces began their work. They are still a group of people that come back and work as we need them to. And once we're done negotiating the effects of what COVID-19 will look like in a classroom setting, then we'll have those task forces working again to just update the plans that we had in place. So what I see happening is the very first group that will come back, and most likely will not be coming back since we're into the holiday season. It might not be until we come back from the winter break, right at the beginning of the second semester, would be students that are in special education, our most severe and in need students. That's our very first group to come back. In special education, there are tiered levels of students that need of various supports. The ones that need the highest, the greatest support will be the very first ones to come back. Those are the students that perhaps are in special education all day or nearly all day. After that, it will be students who are receiving other special ed supports. The majority of their days in general education, but they still have special education support. Those would be the next groups to come back. After that, we'll start with the little ones. That's what I would see. So transitional kindergartners and kindergartners, first grade. And we would work our way up in a progression, in a staged approach. Now, at the same time that we see school districts coming back, us included, in our plans to do so, we're in cold and flu season. So we're also seeing an increase in COVID-19 positive test cases. So as I've said in our every weekly update, or I've talked about in board meetings, this is a delicate balancing act between bringing back students safely, primarily, as soon as we can in the safest manner, taking into account what parents and students want, what we're able to do with our staff. And so I would not see a traditional school setting, a traditional look, definitely not prior to the end of the first semester. And I would see after we come back from the winter break, seeing some special education come back, and then shortly thereafter, depending on feedback we're getting from parents and students, depending on the effects of negotiation, bringing back smaller age students and in a staged approach, bringing back elementary students. I have 3 high school students. I have 2 seniors and a freshman. And I've told my seniors, it's possible you may not come back into school this year. You as a high school student, you may. It's a possibility. I just don't have that crystal ball to tell anybody exactly what the actual date is. But what you're going to see is we're going to see different school districts starting to come back. And I think we are going to hear from some parents, hey, school district X is coming back, why isn't Muroc? I can tell you every week I get comments that say, I understand school district Y is coming back, thank you for not coming back. We're getting more feedback from parents saying, thank you for not rushing into this. Much more higher than we are hearing from parents, why aren't we back in school yet? So there are many factors that play into this. We have a number of families that are also working remotely.
Right.
A large amount of our parents do not reside within the district boundaries. They live outside. They don't, especially here at Edwards, they don't live on the base. They might live in surrounding communities. And so how it works for their families. We do know this. As we come back, we'll do so safely. We'll do so in listening to our parents and students and to the staff. And we will always give options to those who say, I'm not comfortable to come back to school.
Okay. That
So,
would have been my next question.
yeah, I know that there are going to be people who will just feel that way, and they'll have compelling reasons for it. We will not make that difficult for people. I feel that that's probably about step 13, and we're on step 3 right now.
Right.
So the whys and the hows do we make that work? As we come back, we'll have to do a lot of surveys. So we have a number of families that have students that are, say, in 3rd grade, 7th grade, and a junior in high school. So as we bring them back in a staged progression, it may not be as smooth as the Cordes family gets to just all come back in one big shot with their kids that are spread out. It may just be some of those kids would have the opportunity. And some families may say, until I can bring all my kids back, and I live in Rosamond, I don't want to make that drive back and forth. And so we'll be very, very flexible with everyone. It's just those are some of the answers that we'll have to work towards getting to. So first and foremost, special education would be first. Our smallest students, those who are learning literacy, it's really, really hard. It's nearly impossible to teach a kindergartner how to hold a pencil over a computer screen. You have to have somebody on the other end who's able to help do things like that. So we want to get them back as well. But we want to do it safely. We have plans for what that looks like as far as how we check students in, how we check parents in. If you go to Branch Elementary School right now, because we are doing testing, we need to do special education testing, English learner testing. So there is some activity that's happening at the schools. If you come on, John's and Dave both, they have processes, and we do so in Boron as well, where we ensure that, we ask you that you don't come to the campus if you have any symptoms. If you seem symptomatic,
Right.
please do not come. Just give us a call and let us know, and we'll reschedule your appointment. We do temperature checks. You get a nice little sticker. I know at Branch, they're putting stickers on people. My wife was there doing testing yesterday and came home with her sticker that let me know she was safe and really good to go, so that was nice. And we'll have all of those protocols in place as we come back. But it will be staged, it will be small group, and even though we've decoupled ourselves from the county metrics, meaning we can come back on our own, we still are bound to follow the Department of Health guidelines. So at this point, we cannot have cohorts that are any larger than 15 people, and that includes the adults and the children. So I can't bring back Mrs. Kennett, who teaches kindergarten, and all of her kindergarten students all in one shot, because it's more than 15 people. So as we come back, we would also have to look at how do we build those cohorts out, and we track those.
More like a hybrid type schedule, maybe.
It could be most likely like a hybrid schedule, but again, that's all negotiable, so I don't want to say exactly what we're going to do because we're working through that right now.
Working through that, and I heard you say, and correct me if I'm wrong, so the earliest we could even expect for even special ed is after the Christmas break.
I think after the Christmas break.
Okay.
There's a special day class that we have at Branch Elementary School, and it serves all of the elementary age students throughout the district. That would be the one class that would maybe come back sooner than that, but that's not until we negotiate the effects of that, and that impacts about 10, 12, 15 students at the most, maybe.
Okay.
So just a really small cohort right there.
Okay, copy that. Chief, any questions?
Yeah, we have a couple quick questions. One, where do we get our local data from?
That's a really good question. So, Kern County Health Department does track data by zip code, and so we can look that up. Once we're back in school, some other metrics kick in. For example, if there is a positive test case in a classroom, then that entire cohort must go into quarantine for a period of 14 days. It could be 10, but I believe it's still 14 days. If one or more classrooms in a school have a positive test case, then the school itself must quarantine. And then if 25% of your schools in your school district have positive test cases and they must close, then the school district must quarantine. So at this point, we have 4 schools.
Right.
So again, I go back to if the Cordes family had a 3rd grader and had a 6th grader, and my family got sick, potentially you could have 2 classrooms at the same school. Say they were at Branch Elementary School. And because of that, the school would need to quarantine, and that's 25% of the district. And so one family could have the district quarantining for 14 days. The one thing in the Kern County, or in the state guidelines that has some interesting flexibility is, it is very clear. A single case in a classroom, the classroom shuts down. 25% of the school district is closed, the district, or quarantines, the district quarantines. But it says multiple classrooms in a single school. So I think if I check Webster, multiple is 2 or more. So even though it could be I just use the analogy of 2 classrooms shutting down a school or quarantining a school, the school district would have the flexibility to say maybe for us that would be 3 if it's from the same family.
Gotcha.
So we'd have a touch of flexibility there. But that's the razor's edge that school districts must follow. It's
Right.
very, very tight.
And just to clarify, too, when you say quarantine versus isolation, so you're talking positive COVID tests, not we think we may have come in contact.
A positive case.
Right.
Yes, a
Gotcha.
positive case.
Okay. Chief, anything else?
We have several, actually.
Okay.
First, thank you for prioritizing special education. Always good to get the positive. Second, do we all have to get Chromebooks, or is it just for the kids that don't have computers at home?
Right now, it is for the kids who don't have them at home. We have ordered 1,500 more Chromebooks. In
Right.
fact, yesterday we were scanning in new ones and firing them up. Once we have enough Chromebooks for every student, we would like for every student to use a Chromebook. And there's some reasons for that. That allows the teacher to have more access and control over the classroom. They can actually see what the student sees on their screen, for example, and it gives more connectivity between the students and the teacher themselves, and student to student. And so, as of the moment, no, there's some flexibility, and we're really grateful for parents who have had other devices. But I would say within the next couple of months, we will be at 1-to-1 throughout the entire district, and at that point, we're going to require students to use a Chromebook.
So do we currently have any for checkout?
There are.
Yes, Branch Elementary ran out temporarily, but we had more that were delivered yesterday, and we are prepared to hand them out.
And we're receiving more tomorrow morning, so we're ready to go.
So when students come back, and if they're allowed to come back, if it's going to be in the spring, will that be to the new school?
Yes. For the elementary students, that's what we would expect, is that they would come back to the new Branch and New Bailey Elementary School.
Right.
Now, that really helps us out when I talked about the 25% rule for the school district, because now we'll have 5 schools. So it gives us a little more flexibility as well. And Desert High School will be coming back to Branch Elementary. That's their interim housing while we get into construction at Desert. So if you look for little silver linings in the conditions of the world, One of those that we have found relates to construction. We've been able to get into Desert much earlier than we had anticipated.
good.
So construction is ahead of schedule, which is good. Gets the kids back at Desert sooner into classrooms that were built for people their size. I know that Dr. Elms has done a lot of work, and he's worked with Mr. Searks. They've gone through that school, by the way, and figured out which classrooms go where. We do happen to have a room over there that was originally built to be a science lab room, so it works out really well for us that we can still have science labs even though we're at an elementary school. It's a site that used to be it was built 50 years ago. It's been a lot of different things, but thank goodness at one point it had a lab in it. So that interim housing should last 2 school years, and then they will be back at Desert High School.
Excellent. This is kind of a long one, but it's extremely important.
Yeah.
So I fully understand needing to take a phased approach to bringing children back based on different things. But when does the mental health of our kids come into play, especially high school students? After months of physical and social distancing, the lack of interaction with peers and teachers, coupled with vigorous distance learning from 08:30 to 1500, 3 o'clock p.m., is starting to have an effect on these kids. Even coming one day a week would give them a break from staring at a computer all day. I fear the long-term effects that this may have.
Us too. So I have 3 high school students. I have a freshman and 2 seniors. And to speak very candidly, I've seen this in my own home. Not all of our children have been affected by this equally. It's been harder for some than others. And I agree with you. The sooner that we can get students back safely so they can be around each other is what we want to do. So it's against that balance of how do we do that in a safe manner. Do we come back one day and give them opportunities? Again, that's a working condition. That's something that we work with the teachers and the support staff on. When it comes to mental health and students' mental health, the school district has a number of services that are available to students. This doesn't answer your direct question as far as how can I get kids back together again. But I do want parents to understand that we do have, if your child is struggling in any way, at any age, we have supports in place. So what I would suggest you do, if you feel that you have a student that needs some extra help, please reach out to the school site principals and they can get you connected. So just by example, we have school counselors at Desert High School. We have a mental health counselor that also works with students on base. In fact, we have someone who can bill directly to TRICARE and does private practice work as well. We also have what we call wraparound services. So I have an individual who I contract with who works after school hours. So traditionally our problem has been I can get student help from 8 to 3. That's all well and good, but what if you have a problem and it's in the evening time? You just want to talk to somebody. So if you reach out to the school principals, we even have wraparound services that run into the evening. 760-250-3210 is my cell phone number. Anyone that needs to talk can always call me as well. Mental health is one of my highest priorities in life. I've been very, very candid about this publicly. But I have lost my mother to suicide and my younger brother, Christopher. And last year, one of my best friends committed suicide as well. So when it comes to mental health, especially when it comes to suicide or anything that's even remotely close to that, or self-harm, if you as a parent or as a student, if you don't know where to turn and it's 2 in the morning, my phone is on and it sits by the bed and I pick it up. And I would rather somebody call me if they don't know anybody else to call, and I will get you connected to who you need to get connected to. And I'll stay up all night with you if you need. But Chief, to answer that parent's question, that is exactly what we want to do. This is one of those cases where perhaps school is one avenue that parents have in order to allow their children to have interaction with other people. But there are other avenues as well. And we may be one. We are right now currently. We are an avenue that that isn't as accessible for you as even we wish that we could be. So in addition to us, I hope that others are doing what we're doing, which is you're finding ways to connect your kids with their friends, maybe through other organizations. There's different ones. There's different activities and groups and student organizations, and we would love to be a greater part of that, and as soon as we can be, we will. Someone's probably going to ask me about sports. Can I go ahead and just get into that one real quick?
Sure, but before you do, let me jump on other activities, and this is from a wing perspective, and I have my boss in the audience, so meeting his intent of getting social connectedness, bringing that back. I just gave the green light to my FSS to reinvigorate our youth programs. So they came with a number of different activities to include roller skating, and all of which they're going to walk through with public health to make sure that we can do them safely and in a COVID-friendly manner. But we also recognize the need for some activity or something for kids to do, maybe that don't include their parents. Because right now, the bowling center's open, right? That's an activity that folks can go do on base. We have the gym open. We have the movie theater showing some free movies. We have drive-in movie theater over at the club. So there's numerous activities to go do. But a lot of those, maybe those are things that parents take their kids, little ones to, or what have you. So what we're trying to look at is how do we get the kids involved in some sort of activity? Maybe it's a sport, and trying to figure out what sport that is, because, right, a lot of sports have contact, and so a lot of sports are happening in certain places, and you can go off base and do some sports. On base, not so much yet, but we're trying to get there. So they're really digging in deep. The youth program coordinators here are really trying to find ways of doing things COVID-friendly. With that, sports.
So sports, we're a publicly funded school district. We receive our money from tax dollars, so we fall under the government. We have to follow the rules. The way sports is set up right now, there has been permission granted. You'll see there are some school districts in Kern County that are slowly starting to not bring sports back, but sports conditioning back. Now, let me explain even how that looks for the parent that says, great, okay, now I can get some interaction, for my child. I'm with you. We still have to ensure that students wear masks the entire time. Yep. If it's basketball, for example, every student must have their own individual basketball. They can't pass the basketball between one another, so they could shoot at their own hoop. So football, you can't pass a football. Volleyball, we couldn't practice volleyball at this point. We can do conditioning, so we can put on masks and we can run. We still have to stay 6 feet apart from one another. And even as we bring students back, there'll be the social distancing requirements. So again, I kind of go back to, we again, kind of like the base in a way, we are also limited but excited, and we look forward to the day that we can get kids back together. We will be a little slower than maybe other organizations or people who aren't public schools. There are other groups that can meet those needs in a different way, and I wish that we could. We have to follow those guidelines. I think they're in place. They are in place for a good reason. I think they are good guidelines. We'll follow what the law says, and we will do as much as we can, as fast as we can, as safely as we can.
Right. Thank you.
Got a question just came in. What is the school district's policy on virtual participation in class? How are teachers handling a logged in but non-participating or non-visible student? And how is this enforced?
I'll let the principals talk this in a second. I just want to say this. What we are seeing throughout the nation, the state, and in our school district is the same thing, and that is, traditionally speaking, there were always students. I was one when I was in high school that was tough to engage. It was harder to engage. I wasn't the best student in high school. And I think that in distance learning, I would probably fall into that category of student that's hard to get a hold of. What we have seen is there is a widening disparity between students who actively participate and traditionally did in school and those that we had to coax along, whether we used the old carrot or the stick or what have you, incentivizing them to keep a 2.0 grade point average in high school so they could be eligible for sports, for example, isn't there. So we do a lot of home visits when it comes to students in the district. I do a lot more home visits, I know, in Boron than I do probably for the base schools. But we make a lot of phone calls on this side as well. But one thing that I can't do is I can go into the house, I can sit in the living room on the couch and I can have conversations, but I can't go make anyone do anything. So, principals, why don't you speak a little bit to how we're dealing with students and participating and those that
This is
maybe
probably one of the
virtual.
biggest differences between in-person and distance learning that we've had. One of the things that, engagement, when you're in person, the teachers are able to see if the student is engaged in the conversations, engaged in the learning. When they're doing the work, they can oversee the student, make sure they're doing the work. When we're distance learning, it's very difficult to do that. So one of the best ways to get a student engaged is to have the cameras on. And I know there's been some concerns about that. However, when we see, if a teacher's talking and you can see all, I don't know what they call avatars, or they have their little, pictures because their camera's off, and then they're muted because you have to have muted, otherwise you get too much feedback. You have no idea if the students are there or not. And when teachers call on students and they're not responding, it's like, okay, did they leave the room? Are they having technical problems? Because you can't see them. So I know during tests and quizzes it's required, just to try and get some integrity on that as well. But I know the last couple of weeks I've been sending messages asking parents to please have their students' cameras on to help get that engagement. And the teachers are asking for that as well, just so we can see that students are there, they are engaged. I know some parents are, to be honest, are concerned because they may have a messy house and they don't want anybody to see, and in the privacy. So we're asking maybe just turn the desk or the computer and have just a blank wall behind them. You can have the camera on and still be muted. So if there's noise going on in the background, you don't hear it, but we can at least see that the student's being engaged. And we can even call on a student and give a thumbs up. Checking for understanding. Does everybody understand what the assignment is? And they just give a thumbs up because we have the teacher has all the pictures on there. So, that is something we really are trying to encourage and bring in so we can get the engagement going. But other than that, that's what we're trying to do. I don't know about elementary.
Yes. Dr. Elms already pretty much said it all. That's all we're doing as well. We're encouraging. If I'm hearing about it, I'll make a phone call, and a lot of times the parents don't even know that the child had their camera off, and that just having that camera on really takes care of the problem of engagement, because as he said, we can tell what the student is doing if we can see them. So we just like to encourage everybody to keep those cameras on, and that's.
Yeah, at this point, we're still encouraging it. I haven't yet decided to die on that hill of thou shalt keep thy camera on at all times. We are in discussions. We've talked about a lot of different things. Perhaps we could get to the point where if your child is failing their courses, that we make a requirement, or we come up with a plan with a parent. It's not as bad as other school districts, as I've talked to my colleagues, but we do have some that are struggling. If you as a parent have a child that you're having a hard time getting them to keep their camera on and you need someone to help back you up on that, give us a call and we'd be happy to help you. My children, high school students, they're not thrilled to keep their cameras on either. Sometimes I catch them, they've got them off, or they turn them on, they point them at the ceiling. And I'll come along and gently remind them that it's really hard to teach to a bunch of pictures or blanks or a bunch of ceiling tiles. It's really hard for our teachers to feel like there's some engagement. It's good to see someone else's eyes and to talk to them. We are sensitive to the fact that some families do have some privacy issues. Every year we have a handful of families that do not want anyone to even know that they are here. And we work with them very closely on that. and we can work with those families and will continue to do so. But I would highly encourage that students turn those on and engage in the class as much as possible. We are a much more immersive classroom as it comes to digital learning. We run Google Classroom, and we have the enterprise system, so we have every bell and every whistle. One thing that I will point out that we are unable to do that I wish that we could is Google Classroom allows you to blur the background, and that would be really nice. Chromebooks do not support that because of it's a computing capacity problem. So Chromebooks make it effective for us and efficient for us to be able to afford enough to get those into the hands of students.
Right.
But you'd have to have an actual laptop to do that, and it's just cost prohibitive for us. So speaking to Dr. Elm's point, turning the child so that maybe the background is a wall or something else, you can always mute, that's great. We've had some interesting conversations so far this year with certain parents about what's in the background. You need to keep the clothes on. People are a little too comfortable in their home, walking around in their skivvies, and got to go knock on a door or two and remind people that the camera is on and we can see inside your home. So I just want to tell everybody thank you, by the way, for keeping everything appropriate. We appreciate that parents are being respectful. No one's crashing the classrooms and doing anything like that. So in as much as you can keep those on, that would be great.
And this will be a good time to remind folks of the survey that Colonel Harris brought up at the beginning of the session,
Yes.
saying that you could put this kind of feedback and suggestions
Yep.
In that survey and be able to say, hey, maybe you have some possible solutions out there in the field that we're not thinking of.
Yeah,
That'd be great.
Let me real quick, if you missed it at the beginning, I did talk about our school survey. The survey is live now, all the way through November 13th. You can find access through our social media apps, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. You can also, and I have a business card here that has a QR code. These have made their way all throughout the base. We've been spreading them like candy. All you simply do is take your phone's camera, scan it over the QR code, and it will pull up the link for the survey. Please be candid. We appreciate you taking the time to fill out the survey. It's pretty short. It doesn't take you that long to fill it out. But we expect to get some good data from this that can help us as a team and the wing work through any issues that we come across through this survey. So really appreciate you taking the time to fill out the survey. Thanks, Chief, for the kick.
Did I hear
Talk
right?
about it
Were you
again.
handing those out instead of candy for Halloween for trick or treat?
Yes, at the Harris household, this is what you got. No, we gave out candy.
Next question is for you, Colonel Harris, because I think the district answered this pretty well from them. But from a base perspective, I'm curious as to what the base's approach will be to all the students coming back. Right now, retirees are limited to certain days. So what is the base's stance on allowing all these people, students, coming onto the base that are from different counties, et cetera?
Right, and so once the school decides to make that decision, right, so that'll be in coordination. We'll talk through that, but I just got the thumbs up from the boss, so we'll have no issue with kids coming back. That's a must, right? You got to do that, and so that's not going to be an issue. Did I answer the question fully on that? What was the rest of the question?
Yes, sir. Basically, it was, we know the school district has a plan. What's the basis plan to handle everybody coming from all over the county, maybe even other counties?
Right. So they'll
because we're
go
talking
straight
wider
to school,
spread.
right? And then I guess the following questions after that is, when the kids get out of school, where are they allowed to go? And that's a plan that we'd have to talk through.
We'll
as
coordinate
to-
together on that.
Right.
And most of those kids would be bused back anyway. So children coming on school, students coming to school, they're considered mission essential. So we really don't break those rules that we talk about when it's what days are retirees allowed on, what days are they not allowed on.
Exactly.
So I think we have that portion covered. Will we? You mentioned the plan and you went over the plan, sir, for how you roll back into schools.
Yes.
I had a couple questions that center around that. One was, would we think about or consider a waiver to the elementary schools, especially for the kindergarten, first and second grades, because they're more hands-on? Would we consider seeking a waiver for that? And the other question is, will we publish that plan, or will there be a plan published when we say, yes, we have clear vector, we know it's going to happen? When and where would we publish that plan? So two questions that answer similarly.
Perfect, I got it. So number one, we do not need to do a waiver any longer. We have decoupled ourselves from county data. That was needed once you were using county data and you wanted a waiver around that. We now use local data metrics. So we look at 93516 and 93523 as a school district. And the Kern County Public Health Department, Matt Constantine is the Director of Public Health. Up until last week, Matt and I were meeting every week in a meeting. Now that we've decoupled, I just have to pull up the data on the website and take a look at where we're at. We have very good numbers in those two zip codes compared to other zip codes throughout the state. So we do not need to have a waiver. We just need to come up with our own plan. We do that in conjunction with our bargaining units and stakeholders, and we put that together. And when it goes out, it will be published on the district webpage, and someone can see exactly what it looks like. Okay. It will be very familiar to what you would see at Edwards Air Force Base, quite honestly, where you would see masks. There are the guidelines from the county or the state health department does distinguish for smaller age students, for example. So up into a certain age, they're not required to have a mask. Mm-hmm. And then it is recommended that you suggest it, and then it's mandated after you reach about this high. Right. And after that, so you would see that, you would see 6 feet of distancing and everything that has become standard in society right now. You wouldn't see anything else that would seem shocking. Ensuring that people come that are healthy and stay that way, and if anyone would have a concern, we will communicate directly with parents really fast, and we'd work through that. We are doing everything we can to be absolutely 100% transparent, and to the point of saying we don't know when we don't know, and we definitely don't know what we don't know.
And so at what point in that process would we actually publish the plan so that parents would have full visibility on it, the whole 9 yards?
If I were to estimate when that plan will be published, it would be this month, by the end of this month, or perhaps after the board meeting in December. The special ed piece would be a very easy one to perhaps negotiate, I would think, bringing back that very small cohort. As we negotiate what does it look like as more students come back, then the plan would actually grow. So the beginning, but I'll always take it to the school board. I want them to be able to see it and be able to agree with it, give us feedback as well. So I would say anywhere between now and the end of the second semester. As we publish it, you will receive phone calls and notifications that please go on our website and you can see what the plan is. We will not post it at 11:59 p.m. on Tuesday to start school on Wednesday. That's never fair. So as soon as we have it, we would push it out so that you can see. We like to put plans in place with plenty of lead time. So I hope that answers that question.
I believe so, sir, for now. The gist is we have to have a plan in place. We have to have it cleared by the district. Once everybody clears it, then we'll publish it. And it'll be published. Where would we publish that? I might have missed it.
On our website. Yeah, okay. And then we'll push it out, and if PA wants to grab it and help make sure that gets pushed out, that would be great. We'll put it on Facebook and all of our different formats that we have. We have our social media accounts too.
Chief, before we transition to another question, you don't have any? Okay, perfect. This is a great segue. So one of the things that we've talked about before, and I've heard some parents talk about, is opportunities for dual enrollment. And I know we have a relationship with Saracosa Community College. Dr. Elms, could you mind talking them through, how that process works and what we have to offer?
So Muroc School District and Des High School, we've been in partnership with Saracosa Community College for several years. And what that allows is for high school students to take some classes through Saracosa and get college credit as well as high school credit. And there's two ways to do that. One I'm going to talk about first is called concurrent enrollment. And what that means is that a student enrolls in a college class through Saracosa online, and they get college credit and high school credit. There's certain classes you can take and certain classes you cannot. So our academic advisors, Mr. Conforti and Ms. Trujillo, are the ones that you need to really talk to. They talk to all the students about it and give them all the options. One of the criteria is basically to think about is, okay, if we offer the class at Desert, it's not a class you can take at Saracosa. For example, We have 11th grade U.S. history, and you can't take a U.S. history class at Saracoso in place of that high school class. So a lot of students take other electives we don't offer, foreign language, we only offer Spanish, so they have ASL and other foreign language classes they take. Our math classes only go up to calculus AB, so we've had students take a higher level math class after calculus. So that's concurrent. You have to be 14 years old, at least, to be able to take those classes. The other option is dual enrollment. And what that is we have a teacher on our campus, I'm going to use an example, Mr. Spitzer, who qualifies to teach Saracoso classes as well. So what he has is we have our AP classes in 11th and 12th grade, and they also correspond with the same curriculum as the Saracoso class. So the kids are taking the class at our school with our teacher, yet they're getting college credit as well. So that's how it's dual. They're getting both, even though they're taking the class at our school. What's unique about the AP option as well is, depending on the college you plan on going to, you may want to take the AP test. So you can still take the AP exam, still get college credit through this dual enrollment process. And so that transfers over as part of the general ed and helps you don't have to take as many classes when you get your AA or go to a 4-year college. So our academic advisors are the best ones to talk to. I know Mr. Forty right now is starting to work on his 8th grade conferences. So if you haven't been notified, you will be. And he'll meet with every 8th grade student and parent and start to go over, because he's also our 9th grade advisor, and the 4-year plan for high school. And part of that plan and discussion is also what options do you have as far as dual enrollment and concurrent enrollment to get some college credit as well. So it has to be approved through Saracoso and the high school, so we do have the paperwork to fill out. And so you just contact the counseling office, email Ms. Truhill or Mr. Conforti for any information about it. I do know there's a parent workshop or virtual meeting coming up Tuesday, the 10th, November 10th. I don't remember the time, but you can look it up. I know a message went out on it, so you probably already received it. And also you can check with the Saracoso website or the office here on base. If you still can't find it, email me, and I can give you the exact time where that meeting will be on Tuesday for open enrollment. I think it's for open enrollment for the upcoming semester in the spring. So it's there. We're looking to try and get more dual enrollment classes. Again, that's really contingent on the requirements Saracoso has for the teachers. So we have a couple other teachers that may be doing that as well, and we're trying to expand that, plus our AP program. So that's a Saracoso partnership that we have.
A quick question, follow up on that. So I understand dual enrollment, you have a teacher. Do you have any other teachers that?
No, this is the first one, the only
First
one we
one.
have right now. We're looking to try to get more.
So for dual enrollment, really it's English that you can take.
English right
for
now,
dual
and
enrollment.
we have the speech.
And
But what's
okay.
unique about, like, for AP Literature, which is the 12th grade class, it's a year-long class for high school. So the fall semester, you're getting credit for one English class at Saracoso. In the spring, you're getting credit for the next English class, the next level up. And then also there's some prerequisites they require, passing the AP test. So we have all that information through the counseling office.
Okay,
And also with Saracoso, realize the tuition is free.
that was my next question.
Yeah.
What's the
I
cost?
forgot to mention that. So the cost is nothing. Tuition is free for that.
Okay, that's great. No, I appreciate that. Chief, did we get any other questions come in?
No, sir, but in general, I would like to give our guests time and opportunity to answer something I thought of. Is there anything that we've asked over the last couple of town halls, or that was asked of you, that you guys have answered, you've come to the table on, you've succeeded at, that you want to highlight to those out in the audience watching? Something that they've asked a question to fulfill or had a request to fulfill, or something that your school is doing that you're proud of that you'd like to highlight to the parents and to the audience?
I
was unprepared, and I completely threw a curveball there, I know. But sometimes it's nice to be able to say, hey, these are the great things we're doing for you and your children, and we're trying to maximize and do the best we can.
Right. All of us completely understand the difficulty with the distance learning. So I really want to do a shout out to all the teachers out there. The program that we have at Desert you can't find anywhere else, and I don't think you can probably find anywhere else in the state. You're getting the curriculum, you're getting the content. However, what you need to understand too is teachers have, what's the lack of words, slowed it down a little bit. It may not seem like it, okay, but we're trying to deliver as much content as we can so they're ready for the next year, but also not overwhelm them. And I've heard from parents saying, okay, there's too much work. What you need to understand is they're not assigning any more assignments than they normally would in person. But what you're seeing is when we're in person, they're doing a lot of the work in class. And what you may be seeing at home is they're doing all this work during the class time, and then they have some homework. Well, you're seeing that in class time that you usually don't. So it may seem like a lot of work. But the rigor and the curriculum is really spot on. I know Mr. Cortez mentioned we expanded our Google ability, so we now have a lot of breakout rooms. Teachers are starting to really use that to get groups. So what the teachers are able to do is put students into groups of 3 or 4. They have control, and then those students are now talking about a particular assignment or work that they're working on. So now they're conversing among themselves in these small groups with the teacher being able to monitor it all. So I know it's still screen time, but at least they're starting to get that interaction again with the students in these groups. So I'd like to highlight that as well. Also, I'm going to keep on going because we're doing a lot of good stuff, is our ASB, again, with social interaction. We had homecoming last week. We have spirit counts every day. We had it wasn't a dance, but they had a playlist, and there was time. We had a costume contest. We had a few students do that, and it was actually judged, especially in junior high. I know that because I watched some of those costumes. And they were dressed up, and they had it on camera, and their teachers were showing it. So they're trying to do as much as they can virtually. It's not the same. We totally get that. But it is out there. So be sure they're checking the announcements through the English class. They have recorded morning announcements every day, and it's posted in every English class. So you can look at it. Students can look at it. We have a lot of social media. We have our own Desert YouTube and everything that they use to try to bring in the students and do activities they can. So just being able to look at it, out for it, and if you're not sure where it is, simply ask the English teachers. They're the ones that are really focusing on that.
And I'd like to also give a shout out to the teachers. You know, they're working really, really hard, and it shows. It shows in the quality of distance learning that we are providing to the students. I'd also like to give a shout out to the parents. The collaborative effort between the parents and the teachers, we've never had such collaboration before, and it is going really great. The amount of talking and feedback that giving each other. So I mean, keep it up. I'm loving it. It's awesome.
So some words of encouragement. We got a good shout out from Taiwan, so you guys are international now. And Ms. Heaton has got some good love from somebody who has her granddaughter in her class, just so you know. For Mr. Cortez, Trevor, who isn't with us today, but he is here definitely online with us.
He is. He's listening in right now.
Yes, sir. He says, before we close out, can we make sure that we talk when the impact aid cards and free and reduced?
Chief, will you tell Trevor to knock it off and quit telling all of us the same thing? Yeah, we're going to talk about the impact aid, Trevor. Here we go. You ready? So, parents, every year we send out a card. It's a federal impact aid card. Any school district that has property that is federal land, whether it's parks or it's Native American land or it's a military installation, that school district cannot derive any tax revenue from that. So what happens is the federal government helps offset that. That's how we fund programs. So this year we sent those home to every parent. We put a self-addressed stamped envelope to return it back. Last year, I think, was the very first time that we got 100%. I'd like to thank General Heiger for helping us to provide a letter this year, similar to what we had last year, but we are still missing some cards, and that is crucial. So for program's sake, for being able to provide teachers' sake, for having buildings and keeping the electricity on sake, please fill those out and return it. If you've lost it, if the dog ate it, if if something happened, no worries, let us know, we'll get you another one. If I need to drive it out to you, I'm happy to do so. Also, free and reduced applications. Please fill them out and send it in. If you don't think you qualify, fill it out and send it in anyway, just to verify that you do not. Again, those are dollars that come to the school district, and it helps for programs across the board. So please, if you could fill those two things out and send them back, we would really like that. And then Trevor will quit bothering me and Chief about it. There you go, Trevor. Love you, buddy.
You can also come, if you happen to be on base, come by the school during office hours, Mondays and Wednesdays, and you can fill it out right there.
That's perfect. Chief, can I say something good about the schools real quick?
Of course,
'Cause I
sir.
like to brag on these guys.
Of course.
Teachers, staff, parents, everybody's doing a great job. Remember, before March, we didn't even, let's be honest, when a student left for independent study, we would give them a packet and we'd say, go do this work and come back. It was case by case, and you were going on vacation. If something happened in the family, you weren't able to attend school. We went from that to taking every child and working absolutely 100% remote. A tremendous amount of growth has had to occur to make that happen, and I just want to express appreciation to the team, everyone in the district, for making that happen. A few years ago, we heard from parents a lot, especially here at Edwards, that we do not have enough AP classes. We went out and we secured the National Math and Science Initiative Grant, NIMSI. Throughout the world, you will find different high schools on military installations or different high schools that support military-dependent children that have the NIMSI program. And that allows you to have some continuity in courses, AP courses. Not only did we secure that, and we were able to find funding with hundreds of thousands of dollars that was attached, at the conclusion of that grant, while it's incredible, what happens is then the district is left to have a maintenance of effort afterwards to keep that going. You don't always have someone there who's paying that bill. And we lost that funding after last year, prior to last year. So we have continued that ourselves. That's something that we felt was important to just keep on. So we have significantly increased AP courses at the school. We also went, as part of construction, we have gotten 2 different grants for more programs, CTE programs, that will be at, specifically at Desert High School. Now, one of those is connected to performing arts. It's the back end of performing arts, like how do you put on the production. And as we get closer, that it doesn't necessarily mean learning how to paint on screens in the background. It's also perhaps the technological side is what we're looking at. A lot of theater has actually gone more to film and technology. And then we've also obtained a $3 million grant just for drone technology. So we will be one of the few high schools, and we're going to coordinate that really well. I'm looking at John Hiker, because I want to make sure that we don't have drones that are inappropriate for the base itself, but we will be the second school district in the state of California that even has a CTE program for drone technology, which will actually, we have been in discussion with companies that will get us to the point. Our goal is that a student could work towards obtaining their private pilot's license by the time they left Desert High School, if that's what they desire as well. So we have great things that are in and things that are also in the works. And then the one last thing I'd like to mention is I saw a post last week, somebody shared it with me. It was a parent that was either new to the base or coming here. I'm going to speak to this side because I'm talking to the whole district. I have people listening from Boron as well, but this one was to Edwards. And they asked that great parent question, hey, does anybody have their kids at the schools on base? What is it like? What are your experiences? What do you say? What do you guys think? And I just want to talk about one response out of many. And it was someone, I'm going to do some paraphrasing here, but it was an individual that said, while I don't have any children in schools, I've never had them at the schools, I do know this. And they did a comparison between us and I'm just going to say a neighboring district. They said neighboring district, what was named, has, I know that the schools on base at the high school, they can lack programs. And this other school district has those programs, and they mentioned like 4-H specifically. So I think they have 4-H. But they also have gangs and violence and a lot of problems in that area, whereas that doesn't exist over here. And I guess at the end of the day, while we work and strive to bring programs, as many programs as we can with the funding that we receive, and I've discussed many times on how I do not like the way that, I don't feel it's fair how school districts are funded. Now, certain students are given a dollar value that is higher than others. We have been working fiercely to have military-dependent children, for example, to be recognized specifically. Especially having been one and attended 3 different high schools and graduated through a Dodds High School. Be that as it may, we do not receive the same level of funding as neighboring districts. So yes, they have the funding to bring in programs that we do not have funding for. But we're safe. And I can't highlight that enough for you any day of the week. And if your child is struggling, you've got my phone number. You know how to get a hold of us. If there's a bullying issue, we want to know. If your child feels unsafe at school, if there's a problem in the home and you want our help with it, we'll help you. And quite honestly, all day long, I would rather say that I provide you a safe place where I'm going to give you your child back a little bit better than give you 4-H. I'll get you 4-H as soon as I can. But primarily, I want to keep you safe. And I want to keep you healthy, and I want to provide the best level of education that we can, that we're allowed to offer. I really wish that everyone could just be funded equally across the board. That is not the way that it works, so we do the best that we can with what we have. Our partnership with Saracoso is an example of that. We strive really hard to do that. I wish Saracoso did this a little bit different, and let me explain why Mr. Spitzer is our one person at Desert. In the field of education, a lot of times you'll get your teaching credential, and if somebody wants to get a graduate degree, they tend to get kind of pushed in the universities. They say, well, think about your next step in education. What might that be? Well, maybe I want to be the boss. I want to be an administrator. So we have a lot of people that work towards getting maybe an administrative credential or something else. Saracoso wants you to have a master's degree or graduate degree in your field of study. So I have a lot of people graduate degrees. They just aren't. I have great math teachers, but maybe their graduate degree is not in mathematics itself, and so they say while they have that, they need that degree in that field, and so that becomes limiting for us. And it's not our rule. And I love Saracoso. Love you guys. I'm not criticizing. Just saying that's a hurdle that we find ourselves on sometimes. So if parents are going to say, "My goodness, why can't you give me more of those teachers?" Well, we have to partner with who we can partner with, and that's the rule for every university and college that we have talked to is
Right.
They want it in that field.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that makes sense.
Do you have more questions? Because I wanted to brag a little bit too.
I only had one more question.
Okay.
But we can maybe answer that one offline if we need to.
Okay. So as we were talking about bragging, so I have 2 ladies in the audience now that I want to brag on too as part of our CTF schools that the boss has set up, Crisis Task Force Schools. We have set up tutoring. And there is tutoring offered Monday through Thursday. And Halita can correct me on the age groups, but I know my daughter takes advantage of this tutoring for math right now, and the school has graciously let us use one of their facilities for this tutoring. It's free for free math tutoring Tuesdays and Thursdays, high school, middle school and high school, and then Monday and Wednesday for elementary school. And just come on by. I forget the building number, but if you make contact with Halita Van Hoy, we can get you to where that tutoring is taking place. But it's absolutely free. She's there for about an hour. My daughter's been taking great advantage of it and actually signed up to be a volunteer tutor as well in a lower version of math. But she just recently scored 100 on her geometry test, and the night before she was with Halita getting tutored. So in the future, as we turn that program over to the school, this is a great partnership between the wing and the school. But the ladies in the back, Candace Lang and Halita Van Hoy, absolutely deserve kudos on getting that set up and working with the school district. So I just wanted to brag a little bit as well.
They're amazing.
Good? Okay, boss, I see you back there, nothing? Okay. Any final parting words?
I don't think so. I think just, again, reach out to us as principals. I know Mr. Sirks say the same thing. If you have any parents have any concerns whatsoever, let us know, email us, call us on the school, and we're there for you and to support you.
Awesome.
Exactly what Dr. Elm said. Just if you have any issues at all, please let us know. Call, email, text, anything is perfectly fine.
This will stand as our weekly update for this week. Again, on Friday, you'll see posted our updates for families and for staff. And thank you very much for hosting this and allowing us to be here and to speak. We love doing this. We appreciate our partnership and our relationship here. And a great big thank you to teachers, staff, families, students, and everyone.
Yep. All right. Appreciate it. Thank you, gentlemen, for showing up today, as always. Thank you for taking care of our kids and offering the programs and working through this tough time. I know this is strange for us all, so please be patient as we work through lots of other things and to get good programs back up and running, get things out for the kids, and just know that your wing team is behind you 100%. This is a very high priority for us. So with that, I'll sign off. Thank you.